The Batman drops this weekend, but that still leaves us with the question, who is the Batman? Cesaro is out of WWE. Where do you think he's going to go next? And yes, Patrick Stewart has finally come clean. We'll talk about all that on this episode of Trivial Culture. Hey y'all, it's Grant Fletcher, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Trivial Culture. I want to start today by just addressing what's going on out there over in Ukraine, and because I feel like, that's not what this show is about, but, it will definitely be very cold and callous of me not to do so. There's a lot of disinformation, a lot of misinformation out there, so in an attempt to not tread into that territory and get something wrong, I just want to say that what's going on over there is callous, cold, and human on the part of Russia invading Ukraine. And I think it's kind of frustrating, as someone on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, that there's not really a ton you can do. But, one thing I would say I would recommend doing is looking into some charities over there that help Ukrainian citizens directly. And I don't really want to throw any out there again because I don't want to risk saying the wrong thing. Whenever it comes to charity, all I can say is do your due diligence and make a personal decision if you can. That's not really, I'm not saying that you have to do this or whatever, but my advice with any charity in general is do your due diligence. Make sure that the money goes to where they say it goes, and then donate what you can or have or want. And now I know it's going to be a little strange of me to move on from that and start off this show and talk about things like Comic-Cons and whatnot, and Batman for that matter. But I just felt like I needed to get that out there before we went ahead and got on to the show. I do want to go ahead and say that we covered this last week, but my next convention I'm going to be emceeing at is going to be the Alabama Comic-Con. It's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be half Alabama Comic-Con, half KimetsuCon, which is going to have some people from the popular anime series Demon Slayer. They're in attendance as guests on the show. And why don't we go ahead and take a look here? We talked about it last week, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up whatever my next convention is every single week and show you what we got going on there. So this right here, coming from, well, for some reason, I don't have the window here showing. Tell you what, let me get this fixed for you here. All right, there it is, folks. Live to tape TV. This is how we do it. So if you go to ComicCon, AlabamaComicCon.com, and come over to the guest tab here, you can take a look here. That's going to be June 4th and June 5th in Birmingham, Alabama at the BJCC. Tickets are on sale now. They're $50 for a weekend pass. Actually, let's go ahead and look at that right now. Why not? Because we're here, we're talking about it. $50 for a weekend pass. Pretty good, especially compared to things like Fan Expo. Not knocking Fan Expo, but this is a very affordable show. Just announced today as I'm recording this being March 1st. This is going to come out March 2nd. Billy D. Williams just announced. Billy D. Williams is amazing, incredibly nice. If you're a fan of anything he's ever done, I recommend going and trying to meet him at some point in time. Of course, like we mentioned before, Amy Jo Johnson, the original Pink Power Ranger. Then we have Judith Hogue, the original April O'Neil. I just worked with her a couple weeks ago. Looking forward to seeing her again in June. Amy Duma, a.k.a. Lita, Trish Stratus, Christina V, Bryce Papenbrook, another person I worked with just a couple weeks ago. He's great. Johnny Young Bosch has done a lot of anime work. And, of course, he was the second Black Power Ranger as well. And then Zach Aguilar, also from Demon Slayer. So I am really looking forward to this show, and I hope you are too, and I hope to see you all there. Now, moving on, let's go ahead and talk about Batman. Specifically, I want to talk about the Batman, because that is rolling out into theaters on Friday. Actually, technically today. There's some IMAX showings going on today as I'm recording this. So I'm really looking forward to watching the movie and seeing what they have and seeing what they've put out. And, I don't... Typically, I've started doing it because I've been starting the show, but typically I watch just the first trailer and then that's it, because I don't want to try and spoil too much of something for myself But at the same time, I feel like I need to be informed, so I've been watching all the trailers right now, and they still look great. I can't find anything that I don't like about the trailer part. Of course, that's where they're selling you the movie, right? So it's hard to tell exactly what is and is not what you want to see. But the early reviews look really good, and I'm really pumped about that. And I want to go ahead and read a little bit from this article here from comicbook.com. That being called, the Batman early Rotten Tomatoes score points to massive hit with critics. We're reading from the article here now. This by Brandon Davis. The Batman is shaping up to be one of the highest rated comic book movies of all time, earning high praise from critic review scores early. The review aggregate site Rotten Tomatoes is accumulating reviews from approved critics who have seen DC's newest film. Through 16 reviews, The Batman posted a score of 94%. That's fresh, folks. As the tally reached 127, The Batman maintained a 91% review score. Still very, very good. This score may change as more reviews are posted, as The Batman will likely receive hundreds of reviews before its score is permanently settled. If social media reactions are any indication, it won't see any sort of sharp drop. So, a couple takeaways here. One, you can't always go by the critics' review score on Rotten Tomatoes. Usually, most people are going to go by the audience score. There's tons of movies out there that are beloved that have really awful critic review scores, yet great audience review scores. I mean, that's who the films are for, right? They're for the audience. They're not for the critics necessarily. But still, it's usually a good indicator whenever there are that many critics that are in agreement about how good a movie is. So I'm pumped to see about it. I'd love to hear your comments and hear what you think the movie's going to be like, or if you've seen the movie already by the time I've posted this, if you saw it in IMAX, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. No spoilers, please, no spoilers in the comments down below. I'm going to try to get to see it as soon as possible. I'm excited about it, but again, I want to know what you think about the movie, either pre-release or post-release. Let me know down below or on Twitter at Grant L. Fletcher. Before I move on to the next part of the conversation here, though, I'm going to let you know I'm throwing in the trivia question now. So again, if you comment below with the correct answer, I'm going to select one of you to receive an It's Trivial button in the mail. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to upgrade these buttons to enamel pins. And then also I'll send out a signed copy of my book, It's Trivial 1000 Trivia Questions. And the question this week is, what was the name of the person who took over for Bruce Wayne as Batman when Bruce Wayne had his back broken in the pages of Nightfall? I don't need the name of I don't need the, I will say the hero moniker. I don't need his alter ego. I need his name, his civilian name. That's what I need. Moving on to the next part of the show here. Actually, we're still going to stay on Batman, as a matter of fact, because with this movie coming out, I was curious about, who your Batman is, right? It's a conversation that a lot of people have pretty often. And, you typically see it as people just kind of throw in who they say, and you see who you see what names you don't see. But I wanted to throw it up as a poll on Twitter. So that's what I went ahead and did. I wanted to see it. And nothing really too surprising here. I want to let you know there's only 4 names you can put, or only 4 options you can put in a poll on Twitter. So the criteria I used to select the Batmans. Anyway, the criteria I used to select them is you had to have played Batman in at least 2 movies. So Adam West was not in it, but I also counted direct-to-video movies as well. So I'll show you the options here. Not incredibly surprising with who we have here. Even really the spread, who came in first, second, third, etc. Of course, Michael Keaton at the top here. He got 39.4% of the vote. We got 33 votes here. Not a ton, but still out of about 1,000 people that follow me on Twitter. That's how many decided to vote on this or saw this and decided to vote on it. Second place here was 33.3% Christian Bale. Also not surprising. He had the most recent 3-movie run as the lead with Batman. Kevin Conroy. And here's full disclosure, guys. Kevin Conroy's my Batman, right? Kevin Conroy has played Batman for a very long time. There's no way that you could leave Kevin Conroy out of the conversation. You just can't do it. And then Ben Affleck, 6.1%. Pretty low But I did expect people to vote for him. I didn't expect him to get 0. And, he looked good in the part, right? I think Ben Affleck did pretty well with the role that he was given, right? There's a lot of flaws with that take on Batman that I think um, really didn't make sense. I mean, there's a lot of things here, and I'll be the first person to kind of be soft on a movie because I don't, for me, I mean, if I had a good time watching a movie, then that was fine. I don't try to pick things apart or whatever, but there's a lot of things that just kind of didn't make sense within Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. They kind of threw the character, basically Batman had this character arc and he had this character development, and then they just threw all of that character development out of the window at the very end of the movie. He kind of got back to it a little bit, once they got into the Justice League, at least the Snyder Cut. They got back to it, and then they kind of also threw it out the window again with the whole nightmare scenario theme thing too. So I guess maybe not really. Anyway, what I'm saying here is not really surprising, but I'd like to know who your Batman is. Comment below who your Batman is because I want to know. Let's keep the conversation going. And another bit of Batman news here, last Batman thing that I'm going to touch on, and that's really just because it's following up on something we talked about last week. Last week we talked about the Batgirl movie and seeing the Michael Keaton Batgirl suit. Clearly it's meant to be the Michael Keaton version of Batman with a body double in the suit. But just the other day, Michael Keaton posted something to his Instagram, and I wanted to go ahead and show you that here. This, of course, being a first-person view here with the Batman silhouette down there on the pavement. And I mean, clearly, I mean, we knew he was going to be in the movie. There's no shock there, no surprise there. But the fact that we're seeing that he's in the suit again is pretty exciting. And it's crazy to think that this version of the character is coming back. Not only in this movie, but also in the Flash movie as well. It's funny to see because it just shows you, again, the majority of the people who voted on that poll, they voted for Michael Keaton. So they're listening to the fans. They want to know what the fans have to say, I think, at this point in time with the character. And I think, maybe this is just a Warner Brothers attempt at a palate cleanser because of the fact that the Snyder universe in general wasn't, incredibly well received. I mean, I think the Snyder Cut did okay. But at the same time, there's only really just a contingent of fans who really loved it. And I don't get me wrong, I liked the Snyder Cut. But my argument was, okay, great, now do that in 2.5 hours. Can put it into 2.5 hours. And then if you watch it back, there's an opening sequence of the movie that has all of the heroes in it together. And then after that, there's 2 hours with no Batman. 2 hours of a single motion picture that holds the Justice League without Batman. There's Bruce Wayne, right? But not a single solitary Batman for 2 hours of the movie. And I'm only talking about Batman specifically because that's the subject we're on right now. But I don't know, man. Where do you stand on the Snyder Cut? I would like to hear your comments on where you stand on the Snyder Cut as well, because that's very intriguing to me too. There's a lot to be said about that cut of the movie. Coming up next, guys, we're going to be talking about how Cesaro has departed WWE. We'll discuss that after the break. If you're like me, you're a huge fan of trivia, and that's why I wrote It's Trivial, 1,000 Trivia Questions. Whether you're just a big fan of useless facts or you're starting your own trivia night and you need a resource, It's Trivial, 1,000 Trivia Questions is exactly what you are looking for, with 10 great categories from music, movies, superheroes, video games. It's all in there. There is something for everybody. It comes in paperback and hardcover. You can get it on Amazon.com or order it from your local bookstore. That's It's Trivial, 1,000 Trivia Questions. And if you pick up a copy, be sure to hit me up on Twitter at Grant L. Fletcher. Okay, so in, I don't want to say unexpected news, But I also don't want to say that I saw it coming either, at least not now, not just yet. It was reported last Thursday. Um, Last Thursday. Wow, I think my brain almost fell out of my head just now. It was reported last Thursday that Cesaro had left WWE. PWInsider.com broke the story. Shout out to Mike Johnson over there at PW Insider. Full disclosure, guys. PW Insider is a site that I have and intend to contribute to as well. I do more reporting on just live events, things like that, not necessarily the behind the scenes stuff. I certainly don't have the connections that Mike Johnson does, but I want to go ahead and read a little bit from the article here because I like to read from articles and cite sources um, as we go, and so this is going to be a lot of fun. But surprising WWE departure after failure to come to terms on new deal. WWE star Cesaro has quietly exited WWE after his current contract expired, PWInsider.com has confirmed. He last performed for WWE on February 11th, losing to Happy Corbin on an episode of Friday Night SmackDown. So we're looking at, what's that, 13 days between the last time he worked and his release. We're told the two sides had been in negotiations but had not come to terms on a new agreement. One source noted that WWE did offer Cesaro an extension on his current deal, but that was turned down. This would be the case of Cesaro's contract expiring, so there would be no 90-day non-compete. That's the most interesting part of this to me, is because that means that he could go ahead and show up anywhere at any time right now. Now, as far as him leaving the company, I mean, pick any number of issues. I mean, what Jim Ross says a lot on his podcast is it comes down to cash and creative, right? He's probably thinking, I'm not being used the way I want to be used. I'm not being paid what I want to be paid. At least I'm not being paid what I want to be paid for the number of days that I'm working, right? You've heard it a lot of times over the years, over the decades. How many days am I working versus how much am I being paid? That's a big part of it. And I think we may end up seeing more of this as time goes on because there is such another big competitor in AEW out there. If a wrestler thinks that they can get more money elsewhere for the number of days that they're working, at least, work to cash ratio, we could call it, they're going to go. They're going to leave. It's just the way it is. Now, I don't think Cesaro goes directly to AEW. I don't think he should go directly to AEW. In fact, he might just end up going right back to WWE. Okay? This could be a scenario like your Drew McIntyre, Drew Galloway, whichever name you want to use. Gets cut from the company, goes, we talked about this last week, right? Gets physically bigger. So you see a physical transformation for him. Visuals in wrestling, very big deal, very big deal. So once something's visually different, it catches your attention. And wrestling is a very visual medium, and that's what that is. And so, he gets over big with another promotion, an Impact in this example, becomes champion, becomes very popular, and then comes back to WWE and becomes a main eventer and becomes the champion. That could very well be the case with Cesaro. I'm not saying he's going to come back bigger or whatever, but maybe a slightly different look. I don't know. I'd like to see him work in Japan a little bit. I'd like to see him work in Europe a little bit. I think, of course, he's going to be working as Claudio Castagnoli. I'd like to see him inducted into the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame. I'm sure he will at some point in time. That's a very new thing, though. So, but that'll come up eventually, I'm sure. But whatever he does, I hope he's going to be very successful. I hope he's healthy. I hope he makes a lot of money. Because of the fact that for whatever reason, he just wasn't ever really given the ball in WWE. The only time he really was pushed was when he was in a tag team. And don't get me wrong, those were great tag teams. And he did great tag team work before WWE. But I know, and we know, we as the fans, I mean, we pay attention. We know who we like. And I think it's safe to say, safe to say most of us like Cesaro, Claudio, if you will. And we want to see him in a top spot, at least a more featured spot as well. And I hope that he goes out there and just becomes undeniable. And I'm pretty sure he will. With the level of exposure he has now, especially after leaving WWE and with so many people pulling for him. Um, yeah, I think he's going to do great things, and I'm excited to see what the next chapter is. I wonder if he's going to cool off for a little bit, um, or if he's just going to pop up somewhere else next week, next month. Um, Either way, I'm excited to see. I want to know what you think about it, though. Leave your comment below. Let me know. What do you think about Cesaro? Where do you think he should go? And where do you think he is going to go? Not where you think he should go, but where you think he is going to go. Now, let's go ahead and move on to our final segment for this show this week. And it's really following up on something we talked about last week in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and my theories and just kind of what's going on with that series now. Basically, what's happened is Patrick Stewart has confirmed that he is in the Multiverse of Madness. He tried to play it coy a little bit. I want to read a little bit from CBR.com here. This article by John Averden. X-Men's Patrick Stewart confirms Doctor Strange 2 role. Let's go down a little bit further here. On Jake's Takes, Stewart was asked about the recent Multiverse of Madness trailer. Well, I had my phone turned off as it happened, so I didn't hear anything, he said. It wasn't until the next morning when I woke up and looked at my phone and found that I had been bombarded with responses and that my PR people had sent me reactions that they had detailed and passed on to me. So that's very important because he played coy, so he was already being told by his people, this is what you can say, this is what you can't say. I actually didn't recognize my own voice. It sounded different. Whether I had a cold or something at the time, I don't know. But I was astonished, and all they saw was the back of my shoulder, and I think my earlobe, nothing else. There would have been so many connections made, but it pleased me. So that's great that he's admitting that he's in the movie, and that he's excited that he's getting this attention, right? I don't know do you buy the line that he was not aware that that was his own voice? Do you think that's the case? I mean, it stands to reason when you're on a movie set, you record a lot, you film a lot. He probably didn't remember that one single line, the "We shall tell him the truth" line. Um, but it's interesting because I wonder what he was told to say and what he wasn't told to say, and did he really not recognize it? That whole kind of thing. Because he knows basically his part in the plot of the movie. Maybe not the whole movie, but his part, right? And this has led to a lot of other theories as well, fan theories out there as well. Mine, of course, being that perhaps Wanda has, the mutants are there and Wanda has erased them from existence. And we don't remember as the audience, kind of in a meta way, and neither does anyone in the main MCU universe too. And that Professor X is just hiding out in some kind of a pocket dimension as well. And of course, when he says we, who's the other we, right? All the other chairs there. I mean, we're seeing this is going to be the Illuminati, of course. So we know the Illuminati in the comics is Professor X, it's Doctor Strange, it's Reed Richards, it's Black Bolt, it's Iron Man, and it's Namor. 6. And you can see there's 6 chairs there. You see Professor X is in one, and Doctor Strange is kind of, his body is kind of blocking the view. Who's the other person there? A lot of people are saying that that's probably going to be Tom Cruise in some sort of Iron Man variant role, like a superior Iron Man or something like that. Some other people are saying it could be Tom Cruise, but he's in some sort of variant version of Ironmonger instead. But regardless, there's going to be someone else there. It's not going to be our Tony Stark, right? And then there's the other empty chairs. Of course, one of them is going to be for Doctor Strange. And then you're going to have Namor, Black Bolt, and then Reed Richards, who has yet to be, we'll say, yet to be officially cast. I'm sure they have their eye on plenty of names. And this is where we're going to see. So I want to hear what your thoughts are as well on the Illuminati. Now, Black Bolt was introduced into the MCU in a TV series, in the Inhumans TV series, that was not well received. That basically ended early. So more than likely, they're going to be rebooting that and reintroducing Black Bolt into the MCU. So I don't know which way they're going to go with that. But then again, they might. I mean, we've opened up the multiverse here. I have a feeling what's going to happen in this chapter is, so in the first, not the first phase, right? The Infinity Saga. We had this overarching thing that basically stretched into outer space and then came back down to Earth. I think that's basically what this is going to be. It's going to stretch out into the multiverse, and then it's going to come back to the main MCU universe, and then we're going to have some kind of melding, right? So we're seeing here multiversal implications in Loki, of course, and Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange. Some kind of Captain Marvel bleed over there a little bit, and WandaVision, and of course, Wanda and Vision and everyone else. So I have a feeling that what's going to happen is this whole saga from the MCU is going to branch out into the multiverse, and it's all going to come back together, and they're going to put an end to the multiverse at the end of whatever saga this is. I guess, I don't know, they might go another 4 phases or what have you, but I guess we'll see. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. That's all we have for this show today. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check back next week. And as I said, the show is going to continue to grow, and we are going to continue to add more fun elements to it, more than just me talking into a microphone for, 25 or so plus minutes. So until next week, guys, I will see you. And remember,